Welcome everyone once again for this afternoon. As I said, this setting is only for audio purposes. Please, our guests don't feel on the spot. This is only because the microphones here are better for audio quality for the people listening in online, and since we will have some participants listening online, it's a little bit better. So this is our co-creation workshop. We will have a couple of hours and then we will leave you to explore Rome, and if you can spend some time in the city. Or go back to your respective cities like some of us will do in the afternoon. But just to set the scene a little bit on why we're doing this right now and why we're doing this towards the end of the project. So this co-creation workshop fits into a constellation of co-creation workshops that we've done over the span of the few years of the MobiSpaces project happening. The first one was to define based on the innovations that Matteo presented this morning, the 6 innovations of the MobiSpaces project recognized by the European Commission Innovation Radar, we have started to define since the very early stages of the project what's the value proposition of our innovations. And so, like we've said this morning, keeping in mind who are our users, who are the people that will have to take up MobiSpaces technology and might benefit from the innovations that have been developed during those during the last 3 years. So we've had a value proposition defining workshop, we've had a business plan development workshop, and a joint exploitation strategy workshop. And this is an opportunity to have some experts in the ecosystem of data spaces and mobility to give us their feedback. So this is what we've called the sort of expert stakeholder External Stakeholder Expert Board in our mind, which feels like a very sort of a pompous word, but it's just a way to sort of engage people in our ecosystem and in the world of data spaces in the conversations that we're having in the project. So, without further ado, what will happen now is I will leave the floor to our guests to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit more about why we consider them stakeholders in this ecosystem, why they are here, tell you a little bit about themselves. Some of them we've met this morning, but I will encourage you to maybe say something more about you and put a different hat on, maybe depending on the kind of work that you've done in the past. I will start with the ones that we haven't met yet. So maybe I will ask Babis from the Glaciation Project to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about the Glaciation Project.
Thank you very much. Before I start and before I even introduce myself, congratulations for this event. Congratulations for the very warm hospitality, for the organization, for all the different ways that you have engaging the participants and leading the discussions in a very good way. For the online participants, for the offline participants, as well as for the online ones, which I know that they are a lot, and congrats for that as well. My name now is Babis Hadjimalis. I am from Greece. I'm a political scientist with a master's degree in political analysis. I am representing Lisbon Council. It is not the municipality of Lisbon. It is a think tank policy, think tank based in Brussels. We are working to support citizens and communities in participation and democracy. We are communication dissemination partners, leaders in the Glaciation project, and we are representing the project today here also with our dear colleagues who are not here anymore, but they were this morning from the Italian Ministry of Economics and Finance. Now, Glaciation, a sister project to MobiSpaces, a fantastic project, very difficult, so I have my notes here. Green, responsible, privacy-preserving data operations. Before moving further to saying that the whole idea is to build an edge-to-cloud platform that makes data analytics energy efficient, privacy-preserving, interoperable, and scalable. And besides the fact that we have 4 use cases, one in Greece, one in Italy, one in Germany, and one in Ireland, working on different ways to exploring how these different individual components that consist of the overall glaciation platform can support them in saving energy and protecting privacy. I want to stay on one particular term here, the responsibility. We have to be responsible. We are understanding and we are identifying the responsibility to secure the privacy of our users and of their data, as well as to try and make the whole the cloud, the whole situation there more energy friendly and climate friendly. And I think that this is what brought us here today. Not the topic, not the fact that all the projects that are participating here today have been funded under the very same call, but the responsibility, the sense of responsibility that we are feeling, the obligation that we have to each other, as well as back to the European Commission, but most importantly to the European citizens. So congrats again, because you have brought us here today, not just to present our projects and to say how wonderful we have done everything, but to create an ecosystem, as you have pointed out at the beginning, that will continue even after the project completions. That was pretty much what I wanted to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Papis. I would like maybe to leave the floor to Madalina, if you want to introduce yourself. Maybe I'll pass the floor to someone else from online as well, who hasn't introduced themselves.
Hello everyone, I'm Madalina Teppelman from IONOS. I'm very glad to be here and seeing the results. So I'm very proud that IONOS was part of the project. IONOS is 100% European company, and we made sure that to ensure the sovereignty of data, and also to commit to the European rules. And we were in the past years very active in the data spaces projects for health, for education, for mobility. And we demonstrate, and we want to continue to participate in such projects.
Thank you very much. And then I think we have Olga online. If you would like to introduce yourself to our guests here today and tell us a little bit more about the Ukrainian cluster. Can you hear us, Olga? If not, maybe I'll pass the floor to our guests here before I let her introduce herself.
Okay.
Oh, I can see you.
Okay.
Hi, Olga, it's good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so much for the possibility to introduce myself. As I understood, it's already time, for introduction, correct?
Yes, please, absolutely. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about your organization and your sort of role in this ecosystem, please.
Yeah. So my name is Olga Trofimova. I'm a cluster manager of Ukrainian Automotive and Mobility Cluster. It's Ukrainian cluster. It's actually we are organized in 2018, and and from 2020 we already co-founders of European Automotive Cluster Network and have already a bronze label of Cluster Excellence Model, and of course very active in European cluster conferences, and also held several events and conferences in Ukraine. We are members also of Automotive Skills Alliance and EAT Urban Mobility, and we're also representative of EAT Manufacturing, and also organized already EAT Manufacturing Day here in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we are quite active in several parts. I mean, not only in automotive, but also in mobility. That's why we are full members of EAT Urban Mobility. And of course, we are very open for cooperation with international projects. Right now, we are in Interact Danube region project with the name as Develop Data Exchange project, and we're also part of a consortium of European Digital Innovation Hub, which is actually started only from this year. And we are, as the Ukrainian Automotive and Mobility Cluster, also a member of such a consortium, which called Central Ukraine YIDIH. So we are quite actively support our companies in also in internationalization and, kind of building awareness and also building awareness of Ukrainian automotive and mobility sector. And we also participated and had a booths and ER mobility in ESEB, in mobility days in Vienna. We are in a very close cooperation with VDR Germany, with ASEA, CLEPA, and other organizations in Europe. Well, internally in Ukraine, we are not only do some events and activities. We also have e-learning platform, and we're also building capacity and supporting our companies and also startups in the sector of automotive and mobility. For example, in 2024, we had Boost Up competitions for companies, for startups from Tier 6 and 7 on the manufacturing and mobility sector. So it's in short. I know that there is not so many time for my presentation, but again, we are looking forward for further cooperation. We are quite actively, we are quite active in Europe and looking forward for further possibilities and cooperation with you. Thank you so much again for the invitation, and I'm looking forward for our next steps and of course to know more about your project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olga, and thank you for your interest in the MobiSpaces project. And we truly look forward to the discussion today, but also, as you say, and also as Bobby say, more cooperation in the future and more discussions in the future. I think so. Just to clarify for everybody online who might not have joined this morning, we also have Laura Tosca from Tango here today, Ioannis Uru from GaiaX for Future Mobility, and online we should have Pierluigi Plebani from Tidal as well. If you would any of you like to say anything more in comparison to what you said this morning about yourself, about your background, that could be useful to the discussion? If not, we'll just move to the Key Exploitable Results presentation. Up to you. Okay? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So hello everyone online following us. I did a short introduction in the morning, but I will do it again. So I'm Laura Tosca, working at Eco Association of the Internet Industry in Germany. Today here I was representing Tango project, but besides Tango project, that is a project in the same cluster as MobiSpace, I'm involved also in other sister projects such as FAME, that is a project for embedded finance. Happening at the moment, and besides that, I've worked since 5 years now, since the very beginning with GaiaX initiative as Eco Association. We developed the GaiaX Federation services even before the Gaia Association came to place. So the idea was like to have Europe to have their own services that can operate. At the moment, I'm also technical lead for FATIS project. This is a project under the umbrella of EPSATIS, that is, or they call it also ORA, an initiative in Europe to have the infrastructure of Europe. And yeah, so I'm basically all around, and it's very interesting to be here as well and to see what other stakeholders are working and how we can find synergies and align. Why not?
Thank you very much, Laresha. Johannes.
Yeah, I make it short because I also introduced myself today in the morning. My name is Johannes Unruh. I'm from the German Aerospace Center and they're from the Institute for AI Safety and Security. And we coordinate the GaiaX for Future Mobility projects, the project family, which has 6 sub-projects. And yeah, I'm sorry in advance because I have to leave at 3 p.m. to get my flight. So don't worry if I stand up in the middle of the discussion. But yeah, I'm really happy that I was able to be here, and it is a pleasure that you had me. And I learned a lot already. It's a really interesting project. It's great to see what you have reached. It's very impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johannes. Pierluigi, do you want to say anything more other than what you just said this morning about yourself?
No, I would like just to say hello and welcome everybody also this afternoon. Pierluigi Plebani from Politecnico Milano. I'm member of the Information Systems Engineering Group. I'm the scientific coordinator of Tidal. Just to add that Tidal is not the only project in which I'm involved concerning data sharing. I'm also involved in an Italian project called Help Big Data that is focused on the healthcare and the data sharing inside the healthcare domain, where the idea is to create a common framework to share data among institutions hospitals in Italy that would like to share information about clinical trials. And we apply the same approach that we had with an approach that is similar to what we had in TIDA, with a specific focus on the healthcare.
Thank you. Thank you for adding more information and more useful insights, I think, for this afternoon conversation. Okay, so I think I will pass the floor now to our care owners. I don't remember in which order they are, so just bear with me as we get the slides up. We have 2 people presenting online and also 1 presenting from on-site. So once again, these are the 6 MobiSpaces innovations which you've heard about this morning from our coordinator Matteo Vazzetta. And we will start with MobiEdge, if that's okay. So we'll start with George, who is here on site, to tell us a little bit more about MobiEdge. George, the floor is yours.
Hi again, it's Sick George again with you. So let's take a look at what we have here. Okay, so just to summarize a bit what MobiEdge is. MobiEdge is an edge-first computing continuum-enabled edge-first system that is responsible for data processing and analytics, for deploying data processing and analytics jobs at the edge in a dynamic manner. So the overall value proposition is based on a very simple idea, which is that by having a dynamic and extendable way of deploying and running mobility processing and analytics jobs at the edge, you can use low-cost, easily obtainable hardware that you can deploy on-site in different circumstances, like from mobility use cases spanning from urban mobility to maritime mobility, and you can extract and analyze data on-site without the need for internet connection, without the need for external hardware. So in general, let's say, what we try to achieve through MobiEdge is to facilitate this execution of jobs, of analytics and mobility, data processing and analytics jobs, in a way that offers data sovereignty and allows for real-time insight generation. So instead of people having to share their data effectively with cloud providers and suffer the consequences of lowered bandwidth, of lack of internet connectivity, and other such problems that arise when there is a need for constant connectivity, especially internet connectivity, you provide the possibility to the adopters to actually analyze everything on-site and create insights on the fly, allowing for down the line, possibly, the deployment of even agentic, let's say, approaches, which is kind of a hot topic, I guess, lately, which means that the system, based on the fact that it can generate insights locally, could also deploy measures locally, instead of having to transfer all the knowledge and all the insights into a centralized repository or centralized hub. So I guess that's the overall idea. I have no idea if you want to take questions or stuff, or you want to go through everything.
I think Roberta. So
cool.
So that then, because I know some people have to leave early. Yeah, I was just saying for the people online, I think better to present all of them, and then we can sort of start a discussion, and maybe we'll have some starter questions for you all, and also for our guests here. But since some people have to leave a little bit early, let's go through all of them first. So as you've seen, it's very brief. We'll tell you a little bit about the innovation and the value proposition, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper in the middle board. Thank you, George. I will now pass the floor to the next one, which is, sorry. which is federated learning. So, Konstantina, if you want to take the floor, it is yours. I can pass on to the next slide for you if you want.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm Konstantina Beretta. I'm the Director of Research Labs at Kepler, the company that acquired MindTraffic. And I will briefly describe FedDRF, Federated Learning for Enhanced Vessel Route Forecasting. Next slide, please. What is FedDRF and why do we need it? Federated Vessel Route Forecasting is an innovative machine learning-based solution for performing vessel route forecasting on AIS data. This is vessel tracking data on the edge, reducing the data flow from the edge devices to the server. I will briefly describe the value proposition and I will explain more in the co-creation breakout sessions later. So, Federated Vessel Route Forecasting is an innovative solution to perform vessel route forecasting on vessel tracking data on edge in order to reduce the data that needs to be transferred from the edge devices to the centralized server and allow to perform vessel route forecasting in situ instead of transferring all the data to centralized servers. So FedDRF achieves more than a 20% improvement compared to the state-of-the-art for vessel route forecasting with 30 minutes look ahead, and it reduces communication cost by 84% compared to centralized architecture for vessel route forecasting. Next slide, please. So that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Konstantina. I'll pass the floor now to Esteban for a description of the trajectory algorithm.
Yes, I will.
Esteban, can you hear us?
Yes. So yes, the trajectory algorithm, it's maybe not it's a misnomer, not the real name. The idea is that we have built a library for MIOS, which is an open source C library that manage mobility data that goes from edge to cloud. We have a huge ecosystem being able to connect MIOS to whatever programming language, Java, C, Sharp, Go, Rust, Python, and we can think that these bindings like MobilityDB is just a binding for SQL on PostgreSQL, PyMios is on Python, but we have the similar in Spark, in Flink, in Databricks, so it's a really fully scalable C library that goes from Raspberry Pi, very small devices, to the cloud edge, working with, as I mentioned, with Snowflake and Databricks. So that's basically, we have a huge ecosystem. So basically it can be used in many different historical and cloud environments, from cloud to edge also. So it's a very versatile C library. And we have written recently a full book about mobility data science, explaining the usages of this library in many use cases, avionic, maritime, etc. That's for me.
Thank you, Esteban. Thank you very much. Okay, so now if, first of all, was that do you need any clarifications? Was that clear enough before we move on to the Miro board? You have the opportunity to ask more detailed questions. Does anybody have any questions, high-level questions right now? No? Okay, perfect. So maybe we can move to the Miro board, where we have a little bit more information about all three of them.
You can go to the next one.
Yeah, I can just go to the next one. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Because here people can...
Yeah, so people should be able now we should be able to switch screen to the Miro board.
Yeah. I will also copy the Miro board in the chat.
Perfect. So Rita will put the link to the Miro board in the chat so that people from home can follow. And maybe we can zoom in into the first one that George described and start from there. Don't worry, George. If we can make it a little bit bigger for the people here. Okay, can we just zoom in on the first one, which should be MobiEdge?
Il blu. Roberto, se puoi mostrare il blu più grande. Sì. Just a second, we need to...
Just 1 second.
Perfetto.
Okay. Okay, great. This is the second one, I think. MobiEdge is probably the one to the right.
If you go un po' sopra.
In the meantime, while we sort of the technical aspect of things, I have sort of a few questions. So this is a moment for us to sort of discuss the value proposition of these key exploitable results, but to also highlight the challenges and the difficulties and the potential opportunities of each of these key exploitable results. So I actually have a question for George, if you can. There is a microphone there if you want to put it up, just in front of you. And maybe I will ask this question to all of our care owners who are presenting here today. So the question would be, if you think about the implementation of this key exploitable result in the real world, what could be, do you think is going to be the most difficult part to implement and why?
Good question. I guess if regarding implementation, you want specifically for implementation, not adoption and stuff, you want actual implementation, right?
Whichever you think is most challenging, I think. Let's start from the complicated parts.
Overall, the most challenging should be adoption, and I guess that could be maybe the base, the most vital challenge for most exploitable results, right? So, yeah, adoption could be like a make it or break it scenario where if you get some sort of adoption, some sort of traction, then you can move forward, but if you don't. Regarding implementation, since you asked for the implementation part, the more technical, let's say, because I guess some people might be interested in that. The difficulty in general in such systems is the actual way of implementing analytics in a real-time manner. So how do you actually change the technical way of thinking that you have for new methods and algorithms to a real-time manner? Because you cannot just, wait like an hour and then create insights and results after a significant amount of time and still believe that you are real time, because it will not be real time. So you need to somehow make some concessions here and there and create something that fits both the real time premise and the while also being accurate and usable in the real world. But that's the implementation part. To be honest, the most vital thing in this one, and possibly for the rest as well, is the adoption and the picking up speed.
That makes a lot of sense. And maybe I'll turn the question to our panelists and contributors in this sense. What would be, do you think, the biggest obstacle to adoption of such a technology, if it fits and if it is relevant for your own area of expertise, for your own project, or in your work context? How could you imagine using this solution, if at all, in your work context? Is there any insight that you would like to provide, any feedback regarding adopting such a technology? Yeah, Loresha.
Yeah, I can say something also coming from Tango perspective. So within these projects, there are pilots. So it is foreseen that these pilots adopt these technologies and standards, or everything what was developed within the project if you succeed to at least solve one of the issues of these pilots, then this is a very good demonstrator with which you just need a good communication strategy and dissemination to reach to the market, broader market, and get adoption in other parties as well. So I think pilots and use cases are the first adoption examples, and then you can go to the market with this.
Yeah, some way to have a proof of concept that we can then show to relevant stakeholders. Yeah, Fabrice.
I can also say my perspective from the MIOS and the Mobility DB side. So I didn't mention in my short presentation before that Mobility DB has been used for many years in aviation setting in US. In particular, it has been approved in order to be used in production on aviation. The people, our users in US have obtained a US Federal Aviation FAA approval of the Mobility DB. So they needed that before installing this into their system. So this is one of our most active users. As you know, this is an open source community. We only get the people that ask something, ask questions. We don't know all the people that are using on production, but we don't know. They just download the tool and use it. And also, for example, it is used on production, also on Bruxelles Mobilité, which is the the regional Brussels agency for organizing all traffic, cycling, taxis, planes, everything. So it's the agency managing mobility in Brussels. So we are collaborating with them since a long time. Every year we are sending a couple or three master thesis students solving using Mobility DB in their normal use cases. So it's a tool that has been used on production on many sites since a few years. What I would say from and then as I mentioned, we have a huge ecosystem. All this is open source. To be able to connect with whatever tool you would like to use for analytics, for in-memory databases, for for the cloud, for streaming. So all this is available. But from our perspective, what is missing to be able to do a commercialization are verticals. What I mean by vertical is, yes, all these users that have been using Mobility DB are sysadmins that are able to deploy, install, write SQL queries, write analytical queries, display these queries on Grafana for display, for doing dashboards, etc. All this is possible, and then this is why another case we wrote this book is just to as a vector of promoting the adoption of this technology. The problem is, as I mentioned, building verticals. Verticals, what I mean is, for example, suppose that you are working in the logistics, and then you know very well the specific requirements of FedEx or DHL or the post at Brussels. So you know what are their current systems, you know the possibilities as Mobility DB can offer to them, if only by cost, because it is open source. So you save a lot of money in cloud bills, let's call it in this way. But we need to build a full application from top to bottom. So a manager of the fleet of the post or DHL who only knows how to do logistics, don't know anything about SQL mobility, installation. It has a full user interface helping to solve this particular problem of how to assign drivers to the fleet to deliver the parcels. So what we need in our perspective is some company specialized in verticals that can build a vertical on top of this technology, which is mature enough because it has been adopted already in production in various sectors in order to be able to develop fully fledged applications for a particular domain.
Thank you, Esteban. I think that clarifies also the sort of which kind of problem the solution is trying to solve. Pampis, did you want to contribute?
Yes, in reality, this is not only a question only for this project. I mean, it is the question for all European projects. It starts from sustainability, meaning starts from the piloting, the use cases, which will then become sustainability. There is the open source factor that has been mentioned. Again, I will come back to you and to this discussion. Clustering, sister projects, discussion like this can support, from my point of view, exploitation. But at the end of the day, we know the obstacles. I mean, limited funding, the organizations that are participating, piloting, implementing, or developing, they do not really have the possibility, the opportunity, the funding, the time to properly sustain and exploit. So what we really need is communities like this, and not simply Babis and friends discussing at a table. We need communities for real, meaning we need a common repository of technologies, a common repository of reports, a common repository of outputs, of results. I mean, we all have Zenodos or we have our project websites, but at the end of the day, at the end of the project, like 3 years after that, the websites are going to go down, the Zenodos will be forgotten. So what we are missing as project managers, and what I think that from my point of view, European Commission is missing, is a collective way of organizing, mapping the results, and then promoting their exploitation. Because this is not enough. I think that we should find ways to further promote what we have achieved. And a final event is never enough, I think, personally. Or to at least start building the new program based on the previous results. Maybe something like this. Thank you.
George, I see your hand up.
Great, thanks. I agree with everything that has been said, especially the last comment. And just to add something to that, it's completely different in my eyes to have someone that also has been co-funded with you. There can be a pilot or whatever. Adopt what you develop for like 6 months just to tick the box for the project, and completely different to find someone that can pay money to use what you have. I think it's night and day. The one is like having, I don't know, my niece using like a toy that I made for her, and the other one is like building a toy and selling it all over the world. So it's not even the same ballpark in my eyes. So I think this, especially tied to the funding story, which is, we all understand it's kind of problematic at times, especially when you have to shift your research interests and your technical lenses to new topics because that's what's needed. Then having the time and the effort to allocate, to actually make something usable and sellable to people, it's very hard. It's almost impossible, I would say. So, yeah, it's fine that if the Commission thinks that every 3 years they need to find like a new exciting thing and fund this exciting thing, and then every 3 years it's the same and the same, it's fine. But we cannot expect really to have that concept coincide with like long-term capitalization of results, because those two don't really go with one another.
Just to answer, contribute, and also give an additional explanation, because I said funding, and honestly I hate when people are saying this, meaning you have received funding to do it. I mean, it's more than enough to do it. The thing is that they should pressure us, I honestly believe this, on exploiting it on the proper way, because you have not to simply inform the market, you need to somehow involve the market. So maybe what we need is a change from both sides, from the European Commission trying, including the particular calls, and having also mechanisms forcing us to properly exploit, or at least to make the first steps for exploitation, right? And secondly, from our point of view, to properly align with the calls, meaning if you cannot really make the first steps to exploit it, don't go after it, because it is, I mean, it has become the whole target is simply to participate in the project. It should not be the target. It should be to further expand your knowledge and your results, and then try to exploit whatever you're going to build. This is, I think, also quite important to state in order to be honest. And the last point is that we do not have this the responsibility. We don't have the control. I mean, even after the project is being completed, everything is being forgotten. I think this is the problem. And that would also make us readjust. Personal opinion, I mean.
Okay, an interesting conversation happening here. Does anybody else want to comment on this further? Otherwise, we'll move on to, because I'm taking inspiration from what some of the conversations that you've raised. I do have some further questions to ask all of you, but if you want to, yeah, Laura.
Yeah, I can just add on top of this discussion that what is missing is a joint platform where you can find everything.
I will leave it there. No, I think that's a really interesting conversation to have, and we could be here, you know, all afternoon discussing these kinds of topics. So I'll rein it in a little bit and bring you back to the three innovations that we're focusing on today. And maybe I will ask my technical colleagues to. We've spoken about the market and the marketability, right, of these solutions. So maybe I will sort of bring your attention to the market section of these. Maybe because we've spoken about MobiEdge a little bit, maybe we can move on to one of the other two to start. So either, yeah, that's perfect. And if we can zoom in a little bit on the market and go to market strategies. So yeah, maybe I'll. I think it's not really readable, so I think you have to zoom in from inside the mirror board instead.
Roberta, è la cosa migliore che stiamo riuscendo
Ah, this is okay. So maybe I'll do this just so if somebody, Rita, can you see it from your laptop correctly? Can you read it properly from your laptop? Then just give us 1 minute. We'll solve this technically for a second. If you can send me the link, I can read it out loud for the people online and for the people in the room as well.
Yep.
Just give us 1 moment.
Te lo mando su Teams.
Okay.
Unless I try to.
Yes, just so I can. Otherwise, I mean, we can also do without the mirror board, but I think it's useful to have it there to help us in the conversation. Just give me 1
Roberta, actually, we might have found a solution. I will share from my laptop.
Okay.
And maybe it will work. Let's see.
Perfect. Let's see. So just for everyone, Rita's going to try and do it from her laptop because maybe the quality is a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay. So
we were enjoying lunch too much. We didn't test it before.
Okay. Is it better compared to?
Can you try and zoom in and see if?
Is it better now?
Much better. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. From here. Okay. So maybe I can. Just to, yeah, it's there, perfect. Yeah, just to read it for, sort of to answer the question. So I'll ask the question first, and then I'll read it to you so that we can have a little bit of a discussion on this. So the question is the following. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay, so I'll ask the question first and then we'll talk about it. Is the identified target market, and this is a question for all of the people involved, but mostly for our stakeholders, Is the identified target market realistic and clearly defined in this value proposition and market identified? And are there any other market suggestions and segments that we might have overlooked? So I'll read the market section now so that we can have a think, and maybe we'll go and look at the other ones as well. Okay, so the identified target market for the specific use case is maritime intelligence companies that have edge devices, such as marine traffic, the company that owns the largest network of AIS antennas in the world. Early adopters could be MT customers that would be interested in vessel route forecasting, and competitors, of course, are no federated VRF solution. No federated VRF solution has been made available in the market so far. Similar solutions, and there are some examples, mainly focus on ETA or route forecasting, but in a centralized way. I don't know if, Konstantina, you want to say a little bit more about that and the market that has been identified. Otherwise, I'll open the floor for contributions and comments on that, if you have any thoughts.
Yes, the only thing I would like to add is that marine traffic customers already belong to all sectors of the maritime industry. So by incorporating the VRF to the marine traffic platform, we automatically expose it to all segments of the industry. So this is what we mean by MT customers being early adopters of VRF.
Okay, does anybody have any other market segments in mind that this use case, this innovation could consider? If not, we'll move on to the next one. No? Okay. So we'll move on to the next. Maybe I can read it from here. There we go. Makes it a little bit easier. I'll read it from there. Sorry. Okay, so next one. So the identified market is mobility analytics for urban planning, transportation, air traffic management, and maritime operations. Customer segment, researcher, geospatial analysts, IoT solution providers, and companies managing mobility data. Early adopters could be researchers and developers in geospatial and temporal data analytics, organizations leveraging mobility data for traffic optimization or urban planning. And then there's a few competitors there that you can see, Moving Pandas, and so on. Esteban, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, as we mentioned, there are some of these tools that are also available. Moving Pandas is another one. We are collaborating with Anita Grasser, the creator of Moving Pandas. In particular, Moving Pandas being written in Python is a little bit slow. And then we are collaborating with her currently. This is an ongoing work today and these days. We are putting PyMeos as a backend of Moving Pandas in order to typically have 1 order of magnitude speed up of the processing. This is no rocket science. I mean, if you do exactly the same algorithm in C or in Python, you get this speed up. So this is what we are working on, having even an integration of our technology into existing tools.
Okay, does anybody want to comment on the market specifically? Otherwise, we'll move on to George's one, and then we can have sort of a more general overview and conversation about the impact and adoption. No comments on the market? I'm asking difficult questions. I know I'm asking very difficult questions here. Okay, then we'll move on to the other one. Now I've finally managed to open it here, so I don't have to go around. Okay. So the target market for MobiEdge is companies that work with mobility data, especially ones that want to deploy stuff at the edge because their use cases need it, lack of internet connectivity, need for on-site processing, etc. Early adopters could be tech companies that own small mobility fleets or serve other companies that do. And competitors could be for on-site edge mobility data processing. No, there are no specific competitors, which is quite interesting. Generally, many companies like Carto or larger ones like FRQ, etc. Do you want to comment on that, George?
Yeah, very briefly, basically the market that we target other than technical companies, because those are mentioned already, are since we also plan to deliver this alongside the hardware solution, so not just the software but also the platform on which the software actually is executed, similar to the devices that the people from Denmark have been using. The target market is quite wide, so it can be any type of a maritime operator with ships, small scale, large scale, doesn't matter. And yeah,
Thank you. Any comments on the market identified for MobiEdge? Otherwise, we can move to a sort of more high-level discussion, and maybe I'll bring it back a little bit and sort of bring it back to a conversation about all three innovations regarding MobiSpaces, more specifically. And of course, if you have any specific questions you want to ask, I'm trying to sort of guide a conversation towards what we're trying to do, which, as we said earlier, is exploitation and adaptability and so on of the solutions. But if you have any specific questions or clarification, you want to ask for any clarifications, do let me know.
No, actually, I see that Pierluigi has a question.
Yeah, Pierluigi, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if I don't mind, it is not related to the market, but a go-to-market, just a clarification. I see here that the idea is to offer software as a service. Is it correct? So how, in which way? Because it is confusing me. It is more on the edge to cloud. So having a software as a service, at least to me, is counterintuitive. If it is possible to clarify a little bit.
Sorry, this is for MobiEdge, right?
Yes.
You're talking about MobiEdge, Pierluigi, yes?
Yes, the one that you are showing.
Yeah,
the one showing. Yeah, this is not correct. This is not software as a service. It was initially our idea that we could offer software as a service, but the fact is that most fleets don't have a lot of openly available infrastructure that we can use to develop and deploy stuff on. And we also wanted to target fleets that don't have the expertise, companies with fleets that don't have the expertise and the capability of providing access to the internal infrastructure. So instead of software as a service, I think we're transitioning to a software and hardware bundle model, at least conceptually. Is that clearer?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so going back a little bit, and so we've discussed more in general issues with adoption and so on, but I want to sort of bring you back to what kind of problem these different innovations are trying to solve. So Esteban earlier gave a very thorough presentation and explanation about what kind of problem their solution is trying to address. Maybe we can focus on this for the other two innovations as well. And maybe the question that I would like to ask you on this is, is the problem clearly stated, and does it actually address what the user needs are in that specific area? So maybe I'll read this once again for you, and I'll go to FedBRF first. So the problem that we're trying to solve with this innovation is being able to predict the future locations of vessels. This is of paramount importance for all shareholders of the maritime industry, as it contributes to the maritime safety and voyage optimization. In the state of the art, this problem is solved in a centralized way. For example, all data sets are collected on a centralized node where a model is trained. I don't know, Konstantina, if you want to add anything to that to sort of state better the problem, but to our colleagues in the room, maybe I want to ask, is this problem clearly stated? Is there anything that we can do to make it better? We're here this afternoon to sort of try and clarify as much as possible the adoptability of these solutions and innovations. So if you have any comments on that, please feel free to say. Do you want to add anything, Konstantina?
Yes. Actually, the only thing I would like to add is regarding the adoption. So this use case has this framework FedVRF has been used in marine traffic use case. So we do have edge devices in marine traffic where we collect AIS data. So the idea here is, since we already collect the AIS data, to deploy a federated version of vessel route forecasting so that we are able to predict the future locations of vessels in situ instead of collecting all the data in a centralized server and then run the inferencing to predict the locations of vessels.
Thank you, Konstantina. Yeah, Johannes?
Yeah, maybe my last comment before I have to leave. That applies for VFR, but also to MobiEdge, I think. You have done a really good job describing the problem and also advantages, but one thing that I was missing a little bit is for example, you mentioned it is a lot better doing it on the edge because you don't have to send a lot of data. It is more like performant, but also another very big advantage, in my opinion, is that you do it in a privacy-preserving way because you don't have to send the data with GDPR nowadays and more strict privacy regulations. I think it's a very, very big advantage that you don't have to send the data, and with federated learning, for example, you can keep the privacy of each individual, and that enhances security and also privacy. And I think that's one advantage that you can be really proud of and mention also.
Thank you, Johannes. So, of course, positive feedback is also allowed. Thank you very much. Great. So, I also wanted to bring some attention to the value proposition. So, was there anything, according to our experts here, and thank you once again, Johannes, for being here and for your contributions. We know you have to go. Do you think that there are any elements missing from the value proposition? Is the value proposition clear enough if you keep in mind the users, the potential users that will have to adopt, might want to adopt these technologies, do you think? And I will leave comments open also from our care owners if you want to expand a little bit on the potential users. Can we zoom in onto maybe FedVRF first or MobiEdge? Yeah.
So FedVRF, okay.
Yeah, the blue one first.
If I can, just wondering if the algorithm, the model that you have developed here, could be applied in a domain that is related to the mobility but not the vessel.
That's a great question, actually. Yes, that's true. So if you train the model again, actually we use an architecture based on LSTM that is specific for time series data, but not specific for vessel data. So if you use a framework and train the model with different data, then it's very likely that you will have a very good accuracy.
Could be part of the value proposition as well, this generalizability of the model. Why not?
We can think about that. Thank you for this question.
Yeah, maybe I'll ask Valentina from who is following us from home to make a note of that in the feedback section of the Miro. Thanks, Valentina, by the way, for setting up the Miro board. That was very, very useful. But yeah, we can make a note of this and sort of take up on it later on. Regarding my original question was regarding the potential users. Do we want to focus maybe on, FedVRF? Mm-hmm. Yes. So is there anything in the value proposition and what was my original question? Let me say that. Are the innovative elements compelling enough to attract potential users? Do you think there's anything that was missed, like what Pierluigi just suggested? Is there anything else that we should be adding or that we should be focusing on for these solutions? And we can start from this one, and then we can move on to the other ones as well. Do you want me to read the value proposition again, or? Okay. Okay. So, yeah.
It's a question, I'm not really sure if it's correct though. We have the key exploitable result. Is it a standalone key exploitable result? Is it a component? Is it an approach? Could it be part of a larger, bigger service? So the point here is that since you are proceeding with an exploitation path here, exploitation searching roadmap, and since you are analyzing the market and the added values and the unique value propositions, maybe you should also consider not simply the key exploitable result as a standalone thing or as a case, but also as part of a wider service. Just a comment, because it could be different.
Like a service suite, yes. Does anybody want to comment on that specifically in terms of, and I'm asking this to our care owners, Constantina and Esteban as well at home. Do you think that all of these services could be part of a sort of more complex suite of services, and could there be synergies amongst them, and could they be sort of useful in a suite of services, do you think?
I can answer about FedDRF. So we have developed FedDRF as a standalone framework because it can be generic and applicable to many different services. However, in the context of MobiSpaces, we have already integrated FedVRF to the marine traffic tracker use case of use case 3. So I believe that the use case 3 pipeline would be a nice demonstration of how FedVRF can be plugged into a bigger service.
Thank you. Esteban, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, an important thing that we can an analogy we can use for explaining our situation is that we are building infrastructure. Meaning, suppose that you are creating a new database that has this and that capability. We are building the database for a new kind of database that does things better than before. But whether you use this new database, this new technology for avionics or for logistics or for energy efficiency, this is not our concern. I mean, it's not that are not concerned. We are not knowledgeable enough of these specific domains. Our domain is IT infrastructure building with new technologies, with new research results. But the real exploitation only comes when someone takes this technology, applies, as I mentioned with the keyword vertical, apply this technology and build a fully fledged solution for the energy efficiency or for CO2 calculations or whatever user application that has a commercial value, an interest, and solve the pain of existing commercial companies. So this is the missing link that from our perspective, since we are technology developers, infrastructure technology developers, what is missing is someone with commercial view and intuition to use this new technology to build commercial solutions. This is from our perspective how we see the problem.
Thank you, Esteban. I will turn the question also to George, if you like. So do you think that this innovation could fit into a suite of other services together, or is it a standalone solution? What's its own ecosystem?
And especially, I think I agree kind of with what also Esteban said, especially since what we plan to provide is also paired with hardware. It's kind of difficult, I think, to have it as part of another suite. It's basically meant to act as a suite by itself. So, yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more specific questions on that? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next. So I have one question for our care owners, specifically related. So we've spoken today about impact and the legacy and the sustainability of MobiSpaces in the long run. So I have two questions. One is for our care owners and one is for our experts. For our care owners, do you see any clear societal, environmental, and economic impacts of your solution? And do you think that should be part of the value proposition? Or is the value proposition too far away from sort of societal? So if you think about the general public and we think about how a solution like the ones you're creating is marketable and how it can be I'm thinking about mainstream popularity, you know, and that kind of thing. How far away is the societal impact, and should the societal impact be part of your value proposition if it's not already? And to our experts, I would like to ask, do you think there are any sustainability issues in the solutions that you've seen presented here today in terms of sort of long-term adoption and go-to-market? So maybe I'll pass the floor to George first.
Regarding as a care owner, I would say that regarding the sustainability part of the discussion and the tying it with the impact on society and stuff, in the perspective of MobiEdge, if such a platform, not even necessarily just MobiEdge, any similar platform, that's a unified, let's say, solution for acting as a data hub inside vessels, especially large fleets of vessels. If such a thing could be integrated widely and adopted widely, it could definitely accelerate the transition to greener operations for maritime shipping in many ways. So it will simplify the process of handling, of ingesting and handling data regarding emissions. It will simplify the process and overall improve the process of tracking, routing, and stuff like that. So instead of having compartmentalized solutions, having one unified solution that can be easily adopted over the air and also allow for tighter connection between academia and research with the actual field, it could be beneficial. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pass the floor to Constantina. Maybe do you want to comment on what's the societal, environmental, and/or economic impact of the solution you're developing, and do you think that should be part of the value proposition, or is that too far away from the general public for it to be so?
Sure. I believe there's a direct economic and indirect economic impact as well as a societal impact. So regarding the direct economic impact, we sell AIS data, so we're going to sell the forecast positions of data as well. So there's a direct impact from the adoption of NBRF in marine traffic. Regarding the indirect impact, all segments of the maritime industry that could use this service have an economic impact as well, because being able to know where the vessels will go has strong impact, first of all, on the safety of sea to avoid collisions. This is a societal feedback, but also there's an economic feedback impact. George mentioned green shipping. It's crucial to know where the vessels will go in the near future to perform green shipping practices, just as for example, just-in-time arrival and so on. So yes, I believe there is a multi-dimensional impact regarding DRF. However, it's more indirect than direct, so I wouldn't include most of it to the value proposition.
Thank you, Constantina. Esteban, what do you think is the sort of societal, environmental, and economic impact of your solution? And do you think that that aspect and that impact should be part of the value proposition, or no?
For me, it's difficult to answer this question. Wouldn't like to repeat what I said, but maybe I state it in another way. We are technology providers. Then we need some vision commercial person, and then we are by definition geared towards developing technical solutions and being aware of the latest result and latest algorithm. And so we are building a nice Ferrari or nice Formula One. But we need a driver that takes this technology and make it real in the real world. So this is what we are missing, this link that connects new technologies developed during the European projects to find which is the sector, I don't know, avionics or logistics or green computing or CO emissions or whatever, and use this new very nice Ferrari that we have built and then use it for somewhere that has a commercial value. So this is the missing link that we have always suffered. From an academia perspective, we are technology providers. We are not trained for this commercial vision that we don't have. We need someone from the commercial world adopting a new technology and making it have a value proposition, a commercial value proposition. I don't know if this answered your question.
It absolutely does, Stefan. Thank you. And maybe a question I can turn onto our experts is, in your experience coming from both EU-funded projects, but also established infrastructures and companies, is there any best practice, anything that has worked that you would like to share maybe on success stories of implementation and adoption of technologies that you've worked on or in your experience in the past?
Maybe I can take just as a general saying. In all projects, it's mentioned that it is green tech, sustainability, this and that. But to be honest, I still haven't seen any algorithm that shows how we move towards a green technology. Because when we develop new technologies, there are a lot of power for processing also data, and even more energy consumption is out there. And if in these proposals you have the solution of this, I think it's absolutely valuable if you put it in the value proposition. So the others sees that, okay, you don't just talk about it, but you already have a solution or a way towards the solution.
Yeah, that often is the case. It's not necessarily having, I think that's a really good point. It's not necessarily often having already the solution to all of the problems in mind, but also showing that we are thinking of that and we do have that in mind when we devise these solutions. That's a very good point.
Can I ask a follow-up on this?
Yeah.
Do you think of the energy used for the computation when you say this, or do you think the overall energy?
In general. Also, when it comes to, for example, clusters and deploying services, you need a lot of power there. Also, the data processing or keeping up services. Do you do this, for example, for one scenario, you need the services up and running 24 hours. Is there a solution that you can keep the services up and consume energy only when there is a request, or you need the data, use of data?
Answer from the MobiSpaces perspective, but I guess most of what I'm saying also fits with the rest of the years. In general, our rationale, I believe, is that the more that we use the edge, the better we are in terms of energy utilization, because the edge, by definition, is more energy efficient. It's not using large centralized data centers that can actually consume gigawatts of power. It's using smaller devices that are deployed on board of a vessel, for example, or a car, or whatever. And it's generally the energy for computation is much smaller. Also, with respect to energy, for example, primarily from the MobiSpaces perspective in this case, and maybe for FedDRF as well, if you have interesting insights for the routing or the future locations of vessels or whatever, you can improve the total fuel wastage, for example, since a lot of vessels tend to actually have a delayed, face delays when they are about to dock because there's, for example, traffic to the docking station, or they tend to actually use paths that are not dynamically calculated, so they had some sort of information maybe 5 or 6 hours when they left their original their origin station, and the weather might change, whatever can happen, and not all vessels are capable of actually getting that information and adopting to that information. So in terms of computation, the edge is kind of our silver bullet, let's say, because it's cheaper energy-wise. And in general, what we do, we also try to address the energy in the operations that we work. So I guess that's not really an answer, but just a note.
Thank you. It's not really carried in that sense, but as you know, we use the IONOS cloud as well, and we indeed have downtimes there, not only for energy efficiency, but also for cost efficiency, actually, because we don't want the service to be running all the time. We have really discussed this there. So we have some downtimes or if we're not working on them, and it makes really sense because we have 4 partners in that one workflow, and it's, you know, if everybody communicates with the IONOS cloud, it's really good to have our running times and the downtimes there as well. So we do it actually.
Yes, and in terms of energy consumption, if you consider a big container ship that requires a liter of marine diesel to move just 6 liters, a Raspberry Pi is not really going to make much difference either way. So you could say that all your work is in vain, but I don't think that's the case actually, because seeing as that is one sector where we use this, if you were to do this edge computing, and we're talking about the use case 1 where you have these environmental sensors, a low power device could be run off solar energy, and then you could move that energy out there. So yeah, we developed something where you're saying, okay, that's fine. For our use case, I think the more interesting thing is what can we actually use with results of the computation. That's really the interesting case. And again, seeing as it uses 6 liters of, 6 liters for every liter of diesel, just a minute change in routing could have a huge impact in terms of climate emissions if we make that slightly more efficient. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. No, this is really interesting, and I think it gave us also a little bit of an overview of the fact that sustainability has to come across in all areas, in our computational abilities, in the solutions and infrastructure that we use, but also some of the sustainability also comes in the effects in the moment of implementation of the solutions that we have. So thank you, everyone. That was a very interesting conversation. I have one last question for all of us in the room, and especially to our care owners. Is there any, other than what already highlighted by Esteban in terms of the difficulty in getting the solutions adopted and sort of taken up by companies who are willing to invest in them, is there any specific challenge that you are facing that the people in the room could support you with in terms of we still have a few months before the end of the project. Is there anything that you're still implementing, that you're still working on that could help your solution become better? Is there anything that you think is not quite there yet and could become a little bit more fleshed out in upcoming months, or maybe after the end of the project? What kind of work would have to be done to make it even better? I'll start maybe with Constantina. Is there anything that still needs to be ironed out a little bit?
Actually, nothing comes to mind. We have finished the final version of it.
That's great. That's amazing.
And I would say the only difficulty is the adoption, and not actually. We have already adoption from marine traffic, even at an experimental level. But in order to see if NDRA widely used in production. The difficulty is to produce as many edge devices as possible. So this is a big difficulty for us.
So production, okay.
Yes.
George?
In terms of technical details, I think regarding the use cases that we somehow prioritize, we are in a good place. To be honest, the main expertise that I would like to get some hints from is basically if someone knows or is some sort of investor or is an expert in
valid question.
in funding or investments, it's contact me. But other than that, that's the main hurdle, I would say.
Thank you very much, George. Esteban, do you want to add anything? I think the message was quite clear earlier as well.
I think we have discussed everything. I mean, all the aspects that we have been discussed by the three of us and you, of course, covers the issues that I have seen.
Perfect. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions? Otherwise, I'm perfectly happy to close this early if nobody has any comments or questions to our care owners specifically. It's absolutely fine. Yeah?
Not a question, just a suggestion. Right before the conclusion of the project, do remember to somehow present your results, your outputs, your key exploitable results in a very simplified way on your project website, because this could also be a way to reach investors or the proper targeted stakeholders, because we can all use the technical wording, which no one besides the developers understand, but a more political and a more market-oriented approach on the presentation of the outputs could be helpful. That's what I would suggest. And also it is in reality what dissemination is all about, meaning making it very digestible for the very simple general public to understand also and to relate if possible.
I will give you a spoiler, we're already working on that. So as you know, so at the moment the website is very much focused on our use cases, which has been a very, very integral part of the project, and it's proof, that our technologies can be adopted in the real world. But yes, of course, we will actually, Traseti will create a dedicated page to the MobiSpaces innovations, and we'll have some catchy sentences to sort of present it better to, let's say, a technical but non-specialized audience, because I think that's the challenge most times when you are speaking to stakeholders and potential adopters of your technology. They might not know exactly, they might not need to know all the technical details, but that's why we speak in terms of value proposition. That's why we speak about markets and potential adopters and users and so on. And once again, thanks Valentina and all of the exploitation team at GFT for setting this up and for helping us in sort of speaking in a language that is not necessarily our own when we are, well, I'm not a technical person myself, but many of our partners are. So I would like once again to thank everybody for such a productive conversation, and I know I prodded you a lot, but hopefully you did not mind. Thank you for attending the event, and thanks to all of the people at home. Thank you, Esteban and Constantina, for presenting, even if you couldn't be here. And yeah, we will see you on the MobiSpaces website, of course, for more information about all of these innovations in the coming months. We will also see you soon on, I know Claudia's looking at me. We are hoping to organize a joint workshop to sort of take some of the learnings of today and bring them forward. As Laura was also saying, it's important to keep sustainability in mind, not in terms of green technology and so on, but also in terms of long-term impact of the project and synergies and what we could actually put together. There are maybe also recommendations for policy. We've raised a few issues today that we know sort of having a consensus on a few of these issues is very important. So we'll organize an online workshop in July. So you can be at the beach, wherever you want, you will be online, so you will not have to suffer Rome's heat any longer. And then we'll also have more conversations about standardization, which is one of our other objectives in terms of our co-creation series. Once again, thank you all very much, and have a lovely rest of your afternoon. You can enjoy Rome a little bit when the sun goes down, I recommend. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you very much.